Hi everyone, it's a good evening from Alice Springs, Central Australia. I'm Murray Stewart, I'm your presenter and host, and this is episode 1614. It's Blind Magic in Alice Springs. The art of running. That's right, the art of running. I spoke to you in the last episode about the formation of the Running Academy Central Australia. It's a dream come true for me, and I'm so looking forward to what myself and our wonderful team can develop going forward. I think it's going to be very, very exciting. So where does it all start? I'll tell you where it starts, folks. It starts with that wonderful, wonderful biomechanical design of your feet. Yeah, of your feet. Wow, hasn't the Lord done a wonderful job with making our feet capable of walking, capable of jogging, capable of running? Yeah, capable of getting us from point A to point B. And there are quadrants of your feet that do different things. There are different things, that is. So your heels are for stability. And as you rock up onto the balls of your feet, and from then to your toes, that is the section of your foot that gives you power and speed. Yeah, that's right. The heels give you stability, and the ball of your foot gives you power. And therefore, the anatomical design of your foot allows you to not only be stable, but to be fast. And you know, when someone has really got it together, wow, running has a beautiful music to it. Yes, the most beautiful, beautiful sound. So listen to me if you could, folks. Imagine you're running up on your toes. It sounds a little bit like this, doesn't it? And your heels. But when you've really got it together and you're using the whole foot, the heel and that plantar region of or the ball of your foot, that sounds more like this, doesn't it? And then when it's faster, yeah, which is, as I said, sounds beautiful. Sounds beautiful when you hear it. When it all comes together, it makes you sound like a real runner. And that is, as I said, beautiful, beautiful music. So one of the first things I teach runners to do is to celebrate their feet, but to get to know their feet, because depending on what is needed during a race is what area of the foot that needs most use. So, for example, over the last 60 metres, when it's there for the taking, you really do need to rock up on to the ball of your foot and power it home. Power it home. You don't want to be too much on your heels when you are training, because that can bring about hard tissue injuries later on, but it does have its place, particularly when you're jogging during a warm up and warm down. Getting back on your heels a little bit for stability is not a bad thing to do. But yeah, don't you just love that sound of a beautiful runner making that beautiful music? There are other things about running that I will talk to you about as we develop further the Running Academy Central Australia. But as I said, the first object that'll be taught toward our athletes will be to get them to get to know their feet. Because sometimes we take our feet for granted, and we shouldn't. Probably the most important part of our makeup is our feet. And of course, the other important part of our makeup is our brain. I told you about that. And that's why I do teach mental resilience and will be teaching it at the Running Academy Central Australia. And no, I'm not talking about mental health. I'm talking about mental resilience. That ability to hang on in the last moments of every race when it's really on, to dig deep, to hang in there, to drive hard to the line. That's all about resilience. And I teach that this way. A human can only run at maximum speed for 80 metres. So once we reach the 80-metre point, that's when we begin to decelerate. And the athletes who win more often than not, they are the athletes who decelerate slower than everybody else in the race. And how do we build that in an athlete? How do we get to the point whereby they can be there when the whips are cracking? Well, I'll tell you how I do it. I run a session called plus 80. So I get them to run as hard as possible through the 80-metre area where I know that they're going to start decelerating, and I get them to continue going as hard as they can until their gait or their running style starts falling apart and, maybe respiratory-wise, they begin to really struggle. So when they reach the point whereby they feel they cannot go any further, I get them to toss a water bottle or whatever they're carrying onto the inside of the track. And let's say that's at the 200-metre mark. Then their plus 80 reading is 120 metres. Yeah, plus 120. So that's how we work the plus 80 sessions, and we do 3 of those. We give them another couple of chances to go further than their first effort. And as I said, that teaches them all about mental resilience, mental toughness, if you will. And that's what you need to be if you're going to become a champion runner. You need to be mentally strong, really strong. Combine that with having an incredible base fitness, which all comes down to being a strong runner over perhaps 2 or 3 kilometres and getting that time down and down. That all leads to the deceleration becoming slower. That's right, because if you're very fit, even though you will decelerate, once you do hit that 80-metre mark, because you are fit, your deceleration will be slower than most other people. Combine that with this mental resilience, what a package. What a package. All right, folks, there is some of the tricks that this pony has up his sleeve in terms of a coach of the Running Academy Central Australia. And I am the world's only totally blind, now epileptic coach. Yeah, I'm the only coach in the world who has total blindness and epilepsy. I'm very proud of that. And I actually believe it's making out of me a better coach, a far better coach, because running is a feeling. You need to listen and you need to feel. And that's where blindness comes into the equation. I teach athletes to feel their cadence rhythm, and I get them to feel the wind in their face, or indeed, when it's behind them. If it's not in your face, then it must be at your back. And I get them to feel that, really feel it. And now that I have epilepsy, I have learned so much about how the brain works. And bringing that new element into my training or my coaching, I think has made me an even better coach. Yeah, I'm teaching them to do a lot of their cadence rhythm training at home. Yeah, that's right. Air biking, lying on their back, twirling their legs in a bike motion, air biking, and that as far as the brain is concerned, replicates running, and it's feeding that information into the brain, ready to pull out when they need it, when they hit the track. And this has certainly helped one of the athletes that I was speaking about in the previous episode. Wow, has he taken it like duck to a water? And his cadence rhythm at the moment is brilliant. It's wonderful, and it's improved his times markedly. His 2K time is coming down. His 800-metre time is coming down. And you watch what happens to his 1,500 metres later this week. Anyway, folks, that's all from me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. This is episode 1614, a Blind Magic Communications production.